Chances are you've heard of Freddy Krueger, but would you recognize Robert Englund if you passed him in the street? He's not a bad-looking dude. Much easier on the eyes than old Freddy. The actors who play these scary villains look fine, just fine in real life. See for yourself. Many contortionists wind up portraying creepy characters in horror movies, but their actors can be absolutely gorgeous behind the makeup. That's certainly the case for Marina Mazepa, whose beauty was completely obscured in the acclaimed 2021 horror film Malignant. She portrayed the film's hideous villain, Gabriel. And aside from the fact that their faces look completely different, it's worth noting that Gabriel has a pretty hulking presence in the film, so the fact that the character was portrayed by someone so petite and graceful really shows how hard Mazepa had to work. Mazepa gained recognition after bringing her contortion skills to the quarterfinals on America's Got Talent, where Malignant director James Wan first discovered her. She was just what the movie needed. As Wan told Slash Film, it just wouldn't have been possible without somebody that actually has this body capacity. There's not a lot of CGI when it comes to her movement, to Gabriel's movements. That's real. The fight scenes, the stabbings, all of that is real, and it's done backwards. This is another case where personalities really clashed between the character and the actor. While Gabriel is a malicious, malignant force looking to cause harm, Mazepa was actually a bit of a scaredy cat before she landed the role, though that changed when she realized how the sausage was made. As she told Young Entertainment, "Now horror movies don't scare me anymore because I know how fun it is to film them." Like many actors who portray fantastical horror villains, David Howard Thornton is unrecognizable from Art the Clown, his character in the Terrifier franchise. His eyebrows aren't that skinny, and his teeth aren't that sharp, but the difference goes well beyond the physical. Thornton's a genuinely sweet guy who couldn't be more emotionally different from the sadistic clown he brings to life. In fact, he even worries about the potential trauma Art's behavior could inflict on viewers, whereas Art would probably go out of his way to be more violent if he knew he was on camera. And while Art likes to torment kids, and people of all ages, Thornton actually wanted to teach them.
I actually got my degree in elementary education.
Terrifier was actually the first film that Thornton auditioned for, and his agent even warned him against going out for the role. As Thornton told The Hollywood Reporter, she was like, "This is such a low-budget independent film. You really don't need to do stuff like this." And I was like, well, I want to get experience in front of the camera, and this could be something I can add to a reel one day. Little did they know that the film and its sequels would soon go down in film history. In fact, when Terrifier got a wider release in 2018, and more fans were seeing Art saw his victims in half for the very first time, Thornton was still waiting tables. The fact that anyone would willingly accept food from the man behind Art the Clown is a testament to just how different he really looks. Jamie Clayton was once named the second most beautiful girl in New York by Observer, so it's hard to imagine her taking on the role of a character named Pinhead. Even so, that's exactly what she did for the 2022 Hellraiser remake. Being a gorgeous model, she and the team behind the film knew it was pointless trying to recreate the original Pinhead performance by Doug Bradley, someone who looks a little bit more like Pinhead than he would probably prefer. So instead of going for the gruff, enigmatic figure of Pinhead's past, Clayton opted to use her natural beauty to bring a character to new heights. As she told The Wrap, "I was trying to bring a bit of that sexiness to this. I mean, of course to fill Doug's shoes would be impossible." And that went beyond her motion and costume. As director David Bruckner observed, there was a transfixing quality to the way she would play with the words. She found sensuality in the character, and I think a curiosity that I do think differentiates it a bit from Doug's performance. She's got a silky quality.
We wish to see you proceed.
It's because of this approach that she arguably looks more like her character than anyone else on this list, but unless some paparazzo gets a shot of her mid-acupuncture session, we think she still deserves a spot here. Okay, this one is kind of a given. Michael Myers is one of the most anonymous villains in the horror genre, and since he never speaks and his face is hidden behind the mask, many actors have struggled to stand out in the role. Of all the actors who have portrayed Myers, Tyler Mane of 2007's Halloween and its 2009 sequel may have made the biggest impression. That's largely thanks to director Rob Zombie and Mane's willingness to experiment with the character, giving him a more tortured psychological reality and even different masks. As a former wrestler, Mane's hulking physicality was a definite boon, but the costume design doesn't really allow you to see the gorgeous visage that he usually gets to flaunt. Nonetheless, Myers still presented a bigger acting challenge for Mane than any of his other performances. Speaking with Media Mics, Mane explained how he was initially nervous about taking on the role due to the lack of dialogue, and without his handsome face to make up for it, the challenge was real. He explained, "I wanted to make sure I brought what I need to the role, but I also wanted to give Michael Myers the depth and humanity that I think he deserves. He is not just a one-dimensional character." We'll admit that Predator is more of a sci-fi horror than an outright horror movie, but Kevin Peter Hall was so good-looking, we just couldn't resist squeezing him in. At over 7 feet tall, Hall was born to play intimidating monsters, but he was talented enough that he managed to diversify even that section of his portfolio. The same year he played the titular killer in Predator, he played the much friendlier giant Sasquatch character in Harry and the Hendersons, and while his personality might be more akin to Bigfoot, he doesn't look anything like the cryptid or the iconic, often invisible alien he's famous for playing. Funny enough, while Hall's appearance had much more going for it than just the absence of yellow eyes and fangs, he wasn't too confident about his looks growing up. As he told Ebony magazine, "I was really physically insecure because I stood out so much. Acting was very therapeutic. I got to be all different people." And while consistently getting cast as monsters might do a number on some folks' self-image, Hall took it in stride. He explained, "I could be called the Robert Redford of the Monster Squad. I've never played the leading man, the dull part. I think the villain is always the best part. Not only does it pay the bills, but they're fun characters." Sadly, after a 1990 car accident, Hall received a blood transfusion that gave him HIV. He died just 1 year later. It was supposed to kickstart an all-new cinematic universe, but 2017's The Mummy unraveled pretty quickly. It got off on the right foot when Sofia Boutella was introduced as Princess Amenette, but in the end, this reboot simply wasn't as fun as the 1999 Brendan Fraser version. Part of the problem may have been the lack of the Mummy herself, with Boutella's screen time paling in comparison to her co-star Tom Cruise. The Mummy's negative reviews and poor box office numbers left the future of the dark universe in doubt, but for all the bad press, Boutella's dedication to the project was never in doubt. In fact, the Algerian actress just so happened to be a huge fan of Universal's classic monster movies growing up. She told The Independent, "If you look at the original ones, they're interesting, profound metaphors." Before The Mummy, Boutella was a backup dancer for Madonna and Rihanna, and she has appeared in other films such as Kingsman, The Secret Service, and Atomic Blonde. Hiring an actor who moonlights as a model only to cover him in makeup might seem pointless, but Bill Skarsgård wasn't cast as Pennywise the dancing clown in the 2017 adaptation of Stephen King's It because of his good looks. The Swedish actor brought a whole new level of intensity to the character, setting his Pennywise apart from the earlier Tim Curry version. Getting into the right mindset for the role was difficult for Skarsgård, and he found it even harder to shake it off after the film wrapped. He told Entertainment Weekly, "I was home, done with the movie, and I started having very strange and vivid Pennywise dreams."
Part of Pennywise is that he hates the kids, and it's so much anger. And
most clowns do. Yeah.
Billed as the darkest chapter in the Conjuring universe, The Nun caused a lot of hype, but ultimately failed to impress. It scored the lowest tomato meter of any Conjuring universe film to date, but according to lead actress Thaisa Farmiga, the title character was plenty scary. Farmiga revealed that Bonnie Aarons would go out of her way to scare her between takes, often sneaking up behind her in the terrifying nun getup worn by her character, the demon Valak. Aarons had a blast on set, and to make her look so scary, it apparently didn't take as much effort as you might imagine. She explained to Coma Music magazine that she actually wasn't wearing that much makeup, as it was strategically painted on.
I'm their hand-painted Mona Lisa.
Man Mountain Ken Kirzinger once played college football for the University of British Columbia, but he decided to get into stunt work after suffering a bad knee injury. He secretly hoped his stunt performances would lead to him being discovered, but he had no idea his very modest involvement in the Friday the 13th franchise would cause such a ruckus. The actor has admitted that his favorite role is horror icon Jason Voorhees. He first donned the hockey mask in 1989's Jason Takes Manhattan as a stunt double, and also appeared in that film as one of Jason's victims. He banked his stuntman checks and forgot all about the character until he was offered the chance to play him for real.
As far as being afraid of it, I mean, you got to remember I'm a stuntman, so I'm used to doing stuff that's a little iffy.
When Kirzinger played Jason in 2003's Freddy vs. Jason, he didn't realize it was such a big deal, but he soon became appreciative of the fan response. The face-off nature of this particular movie meant that Kirzinger even got the chance to act heroic for a moment, decapitating Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger in the closing moments. A young DeVay Chase played creepy girl Samara in 2002's The Ring and appeared in 2005's The Ring 2 via archive footage. But the majorly creepy stuff in the sequel came courtesy of contortionist Bonnie Morgan. The studio initially intended to use special effects for some key Samara scenes, but the stunt coordinator was a friend of Morgan's and suggested they use her instead. Speaking of one iconic scene, Morgan told Bloody Disgusting, "The spider walk originated on my living room floor, and we shot some footage of it, and the director could not have been more excited with the result." The work Morgan did on The Ring 2 led to her getting the part full-time when an unexpected sequel was greenlit years later. A decade had passed since the last movie, and Morgan had almost given up any hope of reprising the role, but she was back at her bendy best in 2017's Rings.
41, 42, 43, 44, 45 appliances. But who's counting, right?
He had 0 lines, but Paul T. Taylor was still thrilled to make his big screen debut in Robert Rodriguez's neo-noir classic, Sin City, in 2005. More bit parts followed, but Taylor was forced to put his career and life on hold after he was diagnosed with hepatitis C. The disease became hard to deal with, and Taylor succumbed to depression. Thoughts of killing himself began to cross his mind, but before he had the chance to do anything drastic, a new drug helped Taylor recover. He started auditioning again, and one day he received a script simply titled Judgement. As a Hellraiser fan, he saw through the ruse. From the first line, Taylor knew that this was a Hellraiser movie. He ended up being offered the role of Pinhead after the legendary Doug Bradley refused to reprise the role. Sheri Moon Zombie and her husband Rob Zombie have collaborated on a handful of horror movies over the years, the first of which was 2003's House of 1000 Corpses. This shameless throwback to the exploitation films of the 1970s was truly disturbing, and Sheri Moon stole the show as the crazed baby Firefly. She reprised the role in 2005's The Devil's Rejects. This disturbing sequel places baby right at the center of the carnage. Zombie was essentially playing a psychotic version of herself, so there wasn't much of a physical transformation needed, but that wasn't the case when the married couple worked together again on 2012's Lords of Salem. Zombie stars as a recovering drug addict who falls in league with the devil after becoming involved with a coven of witches. For the role, she agreed to have her hair in dreadlocks and sit through the application of several fake tattoos, not to mention some intricate face paints.